Leader of the third party.
Mr. Speaker.
The rules have just been suspended.
Okay.
Proceed.
Just wanted to check on that because, Mr. Speaker, I don't want you to be too worried about me getting this out. I committed last time, after the Christmas message last year, to never sing in this House again.
Thank you.
That's more than a promise. So, Mr. Speaker, my staff and I turned to Charles Dickens for some inspiration this season. And therefore, there's some prose here, with apologies to Charles Dickens and all of those who love A Christmas Carol. So if you will indulge me. And so it came to pass the night before the adjournment of the chamber, as the Premier was returning to his office. Now it is a fact that the Premier, having his key card in hand, saw in his reflection in the glass of his office door not his own face, but that of Don Mills, pollster of some renown. "How now," said the Premier, cautious and curious as ever. "What did you want with me? Tell me, Don Mills, why do you appear before me in the glass?" "I am here tonight to warn you about the next election. You will be haunted by three spirits." The Premier's countenance fell almost as quickly as Angus Reid's approval rating of him. "Without the visits from these apparitions," said Mills, "you cannot hope to shun the path Sean Graham and David Alward both tread. Expect the first tonight when the cathedral bell tolls 1. And so the Premier settled in to wait. At length the chimes broke upon his listening ears. Dong, dong. The hour was upon him. That's 2. Lights flashed in the long-abandoned Centennial Building, though power has not lit the musty halls for years. Then the curtains of the Premier's window were drawn aside, and the Premier found himself face to face with an unearthly visitor who drew them apart. "Are you the spirit, sir, whose coming was foretold to me?" I am the ghost of elections past." As the words were spoken, the ghost and he floated out through the office wall and stood upon the rug of a room not unfamiliar to the Premier. "Good heavens," said the Premier, "this is but my cabinet table. But who is this that I see now? My dear friends, Victor, Donald, Denis, Rick, Ed, and Brian. It is them, but there is an aspect of youth in their faces with which I am unacquainted. And what now are they saying? $50 million to be extended. What is this of waiving the security of a loan guarantee? Speak now, ghost of elections past." "I told you these were the shadows of things that have been," said the ghost. "Learn and consider all the Auditor General has recommended on this Atcon affair." With a wave of his hand, the Premier was deposited back at his office, and the apparition had left him. Yet morning had not come, and the cathedral bell was chiming the first hour past midnight again. With much confusion, the Premier surveyed his office, and all seemed the same. That is, until a strange voice called him by his name. "Gallant, I am the ghost of elections present. Look upon me." The Premier did, and in an instant they were transported to the dooryard of a humble dwelling. "I can't believe it," cried a fervent voice. "Our property tax bill has gone through the roof. Whatever shall we do? The money was put aside to repair the roof, but now it must be dedicated to pay the tax." "How can this be?" cried the Premier. "Service New Brunswick flew over this very roof to assess its value, and it surely is in need of repair, not more tax." "Fast track," said the ghost. Gallant's face was awash with horror. "No, no," said the Premier. "Oh, no, kind spirit. Say I will be spared of the scandal." "I see vacant seats," replied the ghost, "in the front benches of the House of Assembly if these shadows remain all unaltered in the future." In a flash, the Premier was once again returned to the warmth of his office. The Premier looked about him for the ghost and saw it not. He remembered the prediction of Don Mills, knowing the pollster never to be wrong. Plus or minus 6.5%, 19 times out of 20. Then he heard chilling moans, worse than any Premier had ever heard from any member of the oppositions. Not Higgs, not Fitch, nay Kuhn, nor Weir, not even the dreadful wailing of a long-dead Corite. He hid his eyes, but felt a deathly chill in the room, so peeked through his fingers. Gallant beheld a terrifying spectre, a phantom draped in chains, dragging walkers, wheelchairs, and oxygen tanks behind him. It moved like the Fundy fog up King Street towards his regional minister's office in the ancient port city of St. John. The phantom gravely, silently, relentlessly moved towards him. "I am in the presence of the ghost of elections yet to come," whispered the Premier. His voice no longer seemed to belong to him. He barely managed to squeak it out. "And are you to show me shadows of things that have not yet happened but will happen in the time before us?" The terrifying spectre replied not, but reached out a bony finger bereft of flesh and pointed. A knot of people drinking in Tim Hortons appeared. "What happened?" one asked the group. "It was the 1st of January, upon the coming into effect of the accord between he and Medavie," replied the other. "New Brunswickers loved their extramural program," a third added. That vision vanished as fast as it had appeared, and the terrifying figure was now pointing at the chamber he had known each of these past 4 years. He looked about in the very place for his own image, but a woman sat in his accustomed seat. And though the bells were drawing in the members, he saw no likeness of himself among the 48 that poured into the chamber ahead of the Speaker. But from among the familiar reds and blues emerged greens in such numbers, Gallant was petrified. A majority government this was not. "Spirit, this is a fearful place," said the Premier. "Good Spirit, assure me that I may yet change these shadows you have shown me by an altered agenda. I will seek the common good. I will hold the roll of this legislature in my heart and try and keep it all the year." He closed his eyes and lowered his head to solemnly reflect upon his deeds, and when he opened them, he was returned to his office, and the sun was rising over the city of Elms. He flung open his door. "What's today?" he called to a young commissionaire. "Why, it's the last day of the session before Christmas," she replied. "The last day of the session before Christmas," the Premier said. "I haven't missed it. The spirits have done it all in one night." Gallant was better than his word. He did it all. The contract with Medavie was never signed. His caucus were whipped no more. Committees sent for persons, papers, and records at will. Gallant had no further intercourse with the election spirits, but it was always said of him that he had taken on the mantle of parliamentarian, though none knew how this had transpired. From that day forward, the Westminster tradition was strong in the halls of New Brunswick's House of Assembly, the envy of the Commonwealth. And so from far away, outside the boundaries of the parliamentary precinct, a voice rose up, boldly and without hesitation, from the blogger Charles, and carried through the chamber to be heard by each and every member. God bless us, everyone.